Hello, I'm Dr. Leona, founder of Freedom Health Systems, and I'm here to help you achieve more freedom in your health and your life. You know, I was working in my yard this morning and the temperature was a breezy 66 degrees. I woke up motivated to really take advantage of the beautiful weather and begin to work on my garden. Now, don't get a picture of this elaborate garden. I'm just starting here. I'm not an experienced gardener by any means. So this is a first year I really try to intentionally grow something and really take it seriously. In the past, I dabbled a little here and there and I was very unsuccessful at it. Nothing to brag about. I used the past year or so, and what I did was purchase some more books and watched a few video tutorials and really just got some of the basics. And I figured I would start small with primarily some container gardening, and also, I cleared out a patch of land that I'm going to play with, and just take it from there. I'm in the learning stages. So what I'm realizing is that a lot of planning and preparation goes into gardening. And at the time of this video, it's April in Georgia, and there are certain things that are better to plant than others at this time of year. I think on the list was lettuce, tomatoes, green beans, okra, squash, cucumbers, and eggplant. And I'm going to start a few with those things. I'm going to start with some lettuce, some okra, and some tomatoes, because I was told they were relatively easy and I don't want to get too overwhelmed and do too much. Maybe I'll start some squash and cucumbers, but we'll see how it goes. I love okra, and I love tomatoes, and I love squash. So I at least want to get those going so I can enjoy those hopefully by this summer. We'll see how it goes. Like I said, I'm a beginner at this and I'm just starting. So, with farming, or not farming, but with gardening, you don't just need the seeds. Last year I kind of just got some seeds and just threw them out in the yard and just wanted to see what happens. I didn't put any effort in it whatsoever. But you need more than that, obviously. You need the right tools. You got to have the right soil. The right soil matters. And if you're container gardening, you need the proper size containers. Fertilizing, is real important. If you're growing indoors or starting to grow some of the things indoors, you need the best grow lights. And also knowing when to plant is real important. Also, you need to know which plants grow better in the sun, which plants grow better in the shade, which are better to start seedlings indoors before you transplant them outdoors. So it's really a science to this. And, I have a busy schedule and I wish I could spend more time in learning this, but hopefully as I go through this process, it will get better and better over time. Oh gosh, what else am I learning? Which are more susceptible to pests, which ones are more resilient. All these had to really factor into my choices because I do want to grow these items as organically and as naturally and as chemical free as possible. So I have to know some natural alternatives as well. So, here I am, and I'm gonna just start growing some things. And a lot of these factors that I just mentioned factored in my choices of what I want to grow and where I was going to grow it. All right, now experienced gardeners, don't laugh at me now. But one thing that helped me was the planting zone map. I didn't know that existed until recently, and it was very helpful when figuring out when and what to plant. So anyway, I was out in my yard and, I was inspired to really share this message because it seems like whatever I do, I can relate it to my health and my life. And, this is a season of planting. And it's not only a great time to plant seeds in your garden, but it's also the perfect time to begin to plant new seeds in your life. Because when we think of April, we think of spring, we think of renewal, we think of new beginnings. So not only is that a time to really apply that in your home or in your garden, but you can really apply that in your life. So the question I want to start is, what seeds do you want to plant in your life? What plants do you want to plant in your business, in your education, in your relationships, in your health? What are the seeds that you want to plant in those areas? Because when I came up with this concept, planting seeds requires an action plan. It requires doing the right things in the right order at the right time. And like I said before, throwing a few seeds in the ground and hoping for the best does not work. It's like having a few dreams and ideas and maybe, start it for a few minutes and then just give up. It doesn't work. Things have a process. Things have timing. There are action steps that are involved. Not when you just plant seeds in your garden, but also when you plant seeds in your life. And too many of us tend to do this when it comes to our goals, whether it's in health, weight loss, finances. We tend to just throw our seeds or ideas out there, but don't really do anything to be able to germinate and eventually harvest those dreams. So when you put in minimal efforts and expect maximum results, the only thing you'll get is disappointment, stress, and frustration. And it really doesn't work that way. And I find that in life, that's what happens to us. We get either we don't put in the effort and we get mad at ourselves when we don't see the results. But you got to realize there are no easy fixes. There are no ways to do it with skipping steps. You got to follow the process. So again, the way we plant seeds in our life is very similar to how we plant the seeds in our garden. Fortunately, there's a lot of instruction out there and steps to follow. So let me just start with this. When you look at the back of a seed package, the instructions tell you how much space is needed. So you might need 2 inches or 3 inches or 8 inches between actual seeds, because as they grow, it needs room. And if you're container gardening, you have to make sure you have the proper size container, whether it's a 1 gallon, which works, the smaller containers, which work well for herbs, and then the larger containers, which work better for things like okra and beets. So you got to know what size container and also know how many number of seeds are allowed in that container. So again, when you set up these seeds in your life, you got to know what space you need, what tools you need, and where you need to be to achieve those goals. Also, when you look at the instructions on the seed packet, they tell you how many days it takes for the seeds to germinate. Now, germination, it's like the beginning of that process. It's like those early stages. It just looks like a few leaves and it's real tiny and delicate and it's so cute. You just see it for the first time and it's really an exciting time because you're doing something right. But depending on the seed, germination can take anywhere from 7 to 20 days. A lot of the microgreens out there, you see germination in about 3 days. So it really depends on the plant. So again, different seeds take different time. So for example, I'm going to go back and forth between real life and planting examples. But if you're losing weight and you're on a program, it might work for someone in 3 months and it might take you 6. So we all have a certain timing that we have to learn to accept. So certain seeds have a timeline and they're pretty accurate. A lot of the seeds that I planted did start to germinate within the time that it did. And, if it didn't, I'll get to that in a later phase of what you should do when things aren't happening as you expected. But anyway, germination can take anywhere from about 7 to 20 days or more, depending on the plant. And it's really exciting to see that germination phase. This is when you begin to visually see the first signs of growth. So when it's in the package, nothing is happening. But as soon as you add the soil, the lighting, and the water in the right conditions, it starts to happen right away. But you don't really see it until it germinates and you actually start to see the process with your own eyes. So again, before it can germinate, they have to be in the right conditions. So if it's too cold, too hot, not getting enough water, etc., the germination process will not happen. And I get really excited when I start to see those first signs of growth. I find myself checking on my pots every day just to see how things are going. And it's really exciting to see those signs of growth because it's a sign of progress, and I know that I'm on the right track. I'm doing something right. But it doesn't stop there. The plants or the seedlings still need attention. It still needs water. It still needs to be in the correct conditions. They're very delicate. You can't mess with them too much. You got to make sure, you got to find that perfect combination of make sure it gets a perfect amount of water, not too much. You don't want it to, there's so many factors to it that I wasn't aware of last year. So again, these seedlings are delicate, and you have to continue to nurture and protect it so that it continues to grow. And that happens in our life as well. When it comes to our life, that germination is that phase when you start to see those small changes. And we tend to really forget that. When we're growing and learning and setting these goals in our lives, we want that big goal. We want that big business. We want the end results of our body after we've lost, 50, 60, 70 pounds, whatever our health goals were, or all the muscles. We want to see that. That's the harvest. But the thing is, you're not going to get the harvest unless you learn to appreciate those small changes over time. So as you go into this process, appreciate the germination phase, okay? Experience and celebrate your first win. Things like your first sale, that first pound you lost, that first chapter you wrote in your book. Whatever it is, know that it is part of the process and you're moving in the right direction. Start to see and experience what you planted. Enjoy that journey, because I don't think that is emphasized enough when we are planting seeds in our life. And it's also important that you celebrate the process as you continue to nurture it and watch it grow. And when, and germination is that phase before harvest. And there's time between seed and harvest. And that is a difficult time for most of us. It requires, patience and time. And a lot of people aren't really built for that, but you got to learn to do it. There's no other way around it. So there is a time from seed to harvest, and that could be anywhere from 30 to 80 days or more. Okay? So as you watch your plant grow, and I said this before, it does require time and patience. And of course, you need to continue to monitor and adjust when necessary. You got to keep your eye on this thing. You can't just plant it and never look at it. I look at my plants daily now. And if things need to be adjusted, the sooner it's adjusted, the better. And knowing the plant and knowing the time it takes to germinate and knowing how long it takes to harvest and knowing how each step is supposed to look is very helpful. Because if you see something that is not in the normal process, or you find that it's getting too much sun, not enough water, you can make these adjustments. And the sooner you make these adjustments, the better. Because if something happens and that plant dies, there's no coming back. So you got to keep this process as long as that plant is alive. So you need to monitor and adjust when necessary. And as the plant grows, so does its needs. So for example, does the plant need more sunlight? Does it need less sunlight? Does it need more water, less water? Do you need to fertilize it more frequently? What type of fertilizer does it need? Are you dealing with pests? What kind of pests? And what methods get rid of those pests without injuring the plant? And the seed in your life works exactly the same way. Just like the seeds in your garden have its own timing and its own sets of needs, so do the seeds that you sow in your life. The seeds you plant in your life requires time, requires patience, and the need to monitor and adjust when it's necessary. And I keep saying that because it's so important. We live in this society where everybody wants it now and wants it quick, and they don't want to put any sweat in the game. Because trust me, when I was out there moving my containers around and making sure they were in the sunlight and, just, checking things, I worked up a sweat. I mean, it was 66 degrees and it was breezy. But when it was said and done, I had some sweat equity in the game. I was sweating. I had dirt under my nails. I mean, it was great. And you got to put some sweat in the game and you got to do the work. There is no other way. So knowing the days to harvest is like setting realistic expectations. So if it takes 20 days, I don't remember the numbers right off, I don't have my notes in front of me, but say it takes, the average is about 2 weeks for most plants. So say if I'm growing a tomato plant, I am growing some cherry tomatoes, and it takes about 14 days to germinate, I know what to expect. It's realistic to expect to see my tomato plant start to germinate in 7 to 14 days. So you rejoice and you're happy, and again, it's continue to monitor. So that's realistic expectations. But when the package says it takes 14 days and you expect it in 1, that's not being realistic. So knowing the days of harvest and knowing the days of germination is like it's like setting realistic expectations. I hope you follow me there. I think I kind of went around in circles with that, but you got to understand and set realistic expectations based on your goals. For example, weight loss goals may take more time than finishing your resume. You can finish your resume in 2 or 3 days, where it may take 3 to 6 months to lose, a ton of weight. So really set some realistic expectations. And say, back to the germination example. So say 10 days to germinate and you don't see the results. Don't panic, don't quit. That is not the right thing to do. But just make those necessary adjustments and wait a few more days if needed. And if still nothing happens, you might have to start over, and that's okay. Try some new seeds, try a different soil, place the plant in a different location. It's okay. You're just going to learn from this experience and continue to move forward. All right? There's lots of things that I planted in the past and I got nothing from it. I still have containers from last year and nothing grew. So again, I was just dabbling. I didn't give it as much attention as I did this year. But again, it's okay. And I know more than I did a year ago. And that's part of the process. Another thing that you need to do is keep track of your plant's progress. What I actually did was wrote down what I was growing, where I located it. I wrote down when I started, when I expect the plant to germinate, when I should expect harvest. So that way I can keep track of things. And if something's go wrong, I can really see which variables I can change. So you don't want to change too many variables at once, but if you keep track of everything, say on this date I changed the location. And if that didn't work, you could say, okay, I already changed the location. How about adding more water? And just write that down. So I actually keep track of the care that I'm giving to my plants so I can really know the progress, because it's going to be hard to recall what you did to 5 or 6 different plants at different times. So I found that to be helpful, because when you keep track of the plant's progress, it keeps you focused and you can catch problems early when they arise. And again, this same method can be applied in our lives. Track your foods, track your mood, track your sleep. If you're dealing with, financial stuff, track your spending, track what you make. The list goes on and on. If you have a diagnosed disease such as diabetes or blood pressure, check your blood pressure, check your sugar, so that you can tell, okay, when you eat one certain thing, it spikes up your sugar levels or it increases your blood pressure. And you find when you eat or do something else, it actually lowers those numbers, because it's hard to figure out. We do so many things throughout the day. We eat differently, we sleep differently, we're in different environments, we work, it's like we do so much. But when you track day by day of what's going on, you can go back to your notes and say, okay, whenever I do stay up late at work, my blood pressure goes up, or I don't sleep as well. When I do eat too many sugars and carbs, my blood sugar does go up. So you really need to keep track of these things, because the sooner you see the problem, the sooner you can fix it. So all of this is to help you really appreciate the process, appreciate those lessons and adjustments as you wait for the harvest or for your goals to be met. So the more work you put into this, the more you will appreciate the end result, the more you will appreciate the harvest. You can look at the final product and say, I did that. But however, know this isn't the end. This is just the beginning of your evolution. This is the beginning of your growth. So every time you hit a certain milestone, ask yourself, what did I learn from this? What could I do better? What can I do more of? What could I do less of? What can I invest in to help me make this process more efficient? What can I do better next time? What will I grow next? What will I do, with the growth? Will I just grow it for my family? Do I want to sell it or market it? There's just so many things. The possibilities are endless. And this is what growth is. This is what evolution is. And if there is no growth, there is no freedom. So again, don't just stop at the harvest. Don't do that one-time harvest and say, okay, been there, done that, and stop. There are so many more seeds you can plant. You're able to, you can grow your harvest so you can share it and you can experience more, because growing one thing is a totally different experience when you're growing another. So you're going back to life. Losing weight is a lot different than creating a business plan or writing a book. Everything is different. The work is different. The timing is different. The tools are different. It's all different. But the more you kind of expand the experience, the more it helps you learn other things quicker. So once you get through that initial learning experience, when you're doing that thing for the very first time, in the future, things that are kind of similar will be a whole lot easier. So really embrace the experience, because sometimes it's like, especially as we get older, we don't want to learn new things, but just really understand this is what keeps us alive, learning new things. We need to keep our brains and our bodies activated. We need to keep learning new things. I'm 50 years old and this is my first time starting a garden. So it's like, at first I was like, really? I don't have time. I don't need to do anything else. I'll just go to the local farm and get my vegetables that way. But something really said, you know what? Now is the time. Go ahead and learn it. Go ahead and make those mistakes. Go ahead and figure out. Go ahead and till that soil. Do what you need to do. And I'm very happy that I am giving it a try. So again, I'm still inexperienced, but I'm enjoying the process of learning this, and I'll be excited to share how this journey goes. So, just to kind of recap, the way we plant seeds in our garden is very similar to how we can plant seeds in our life. And it's a process. There's steps involved. You got to do the right things in the right order at the right time. And you have to enjoy the process. You cannot get to from seed to harvest without putting in the work and actually learning from your mistakes. So when you get to that harvest, what are you going to do with that harvest? Yes, you're going to share with your family, have a wonderful soup or a wonderful salad. That's great. And sometimes as you learn, you get an abundance. It's like your business. When your business expands, at first you feel like you're not making any money. You feel like you're spending more than you're making. But as you keep adjusting and monitoring your progress and you're fine-tuning until you get to that point of growth and expansion, you can actually put that abundance of income that you make and put it back in the business. Just like in a harvest, when you have the excess seeds, you can actually share those seeds with others or grow more in the years to come. So again, as your business expands, as your income expands, as your energy expands, as you get to your first book and then your second book, everything can grow from that first experience. You can hire a team. You can try to advance your skills. I mean, this is just an exciting thing. Just like you're seeing your plants and your garden really flourish. it's just as exciting when you see your life and you see that analogy of how you can see your life grow just like a seed can. So I have this thing where I like to take things that we do and really apply these principles, such as planting a seed in our life. It's just something I do. It's like no matter what I do, whether I'm washing a car, washing dishes, going for a walk, there's always some life principles that I can share about it. So there's so much you can do. Just go out there and start planting and in your life. You know, I do encourage growing something in your house. If you don't have a yard, you know, if you live in an apartment, there's some great things you can do right in your home. In the windowsill, you don't need very much space. And for those who have more to work with, you know, start somewhere and, you know, really just expand your horizons and just start to learn. There's just something about that lettuce that comes from your ground, your yard. So something magical about it. And something else I like to do is when I'm planting these seeds, you know, each seed represents, you know, patience and work and resilience. You know, it's just fascinating. So let me go ahead and wrap this up. I really enjoyed talking about this, and I really hope you enjoyed this topic. But again, you know, what seeds are you ready to plant in your life? What thought or action will you plant today? And what do you see that you'll be able to harvest in the next 30, 60, 90 days and beyond? So go out there and start planting these seeds into your life. Please like, share, and subscribe. Don't forget to hit that notification bell. And until next time, go out there and achieve more freedom in your health and your life.